Hi, let's take a look together at this more complex cohort metrics named repeat order rates per cohort. So to understand this one, so as usual, you find it under cohorts, and if it's grayed out, like the refunds and discounts in this case, just let us know. Should be recomputed. We introduced it earlier this week, maybe 2 days ago as I record this video. So in order to understand this one, let's first look at the absolute number here. So we're going to click here, and we're going to see a number of orders per month per cohort. The cohorts are, as usual, customers are placed on a row, like June 2020, when they made their first order that month. The columns are month, so first month in that case is going to be June, and then July, and then August, etc. So these are calendar month, and you see 12 simply because we have 12 cohorts by default. You can change this right here in the filters, right, to show all your data. So now what are we looking at? The numbers here are the numbers of returning orders. A returning order is an order that is not the first order placed in that month. So in April 2020, first month we had 8 returning order, and then in May 2020 we had 151. So it can happen for several reasons. The most common one is a customer just being delighted and making a second order. If they purchase at the beginning of May and they come back 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, they're likely to be in the same month. So that's why there's usually a bigger jump in the second month. It doesn't mean that there's a 30-day lag. It simply means that the early customer in the month are likely to come back. In some cases, there won't be any purchase again in the first and second month, and people wait 2 or 3 months to come back. So every business is different there. We don't count the first order. So if you wanted to know the total number of order, we have a video for this, and it'd be really 7,903 plus 151 because each of these customers placed at least one order in order to be listed here. So this is the repeat order. Now it's a cumulative number. Cumulative means we start with 151, and second month we didn't have 3,102, we had 3,102 minus 151, which I'm not going to pretend to do just right here on the fly, and so on. So at the end, we're recording this in March, so this cohort has seen 12,817 orders, repeat orders, which is a lot for a cohort of 7,903. So now we switch back to relative numbers. We're essentially seeing that increase. When we get to 100%, see here in 5 months, and for most of it for 5 months, I'll switch back to understand better. We're looking at having one returning order for each customer in the cohorts. So you see we're past 100% here when looking at the percentages, and that's when we actually pass the size of the cohort. It doesn't mean that everyone came back, and for this study you'd want to look at the repurchase rate per cohorts. We're going to look at that in a sec. It just means that some customers are placing multiple orders, which is a good indication that on average most customers will come back. So if you're planning your inventory, if you're planning the success of a campaign by cohort, it's sometimes interesting to not just count users, but also affect how many orders they're placing. Because when looking at the impact of a campaign, at a product specifically, or at a SKU, or at a discount code, any of these segments that we can apply here, it's interesting to note that even if not everyone came back and your repurchase rate is actually low in a 5%, 20%, maybe some customers are making up for it, and that's how your LTV is really going that much higher. So when you get to 200%, as it says above, it means on average each customer would have placed 3 orders, okay? And that keeps going up. So there's no limit. There will be, because most businesses unfortunately won't get hundreds of orders per customers over time, but some will, and we're all customers of some brands that we purchase over and over again. So that's what you're striving to do. This metric can be segmented, same thing as usual. You can look by product. I tend to pick this one, and we can do the single cohort analysis. We're looking at April. I'm going to take another one just to switch it up. We were looking at June earlier. So now we're seeing the percentage, and is there a product that repurchases faster over time, if any? The Fulgrim is performing a little bit slower than the other ones, but this data is fairly uniform, and if anything, the Notepad is a tiny bit higher. Percentage is important because obviously there were only 500 customers in purchasing a Notepad in their first order, whereas there were over 2,000, 4,000 on the phone's products. So that percentage means fewer customers. However, good news it is. Now, if you can influence your customers into purchasing that product instead of another one, that may be beneficial if the percentage increase is seen over time. So these are hopefully helpful facts that help you guide your product decision, pricing decision, marketing decision, and so on. Feel free to message us. Happy to get on a call to discuss this one and others. And for reference, the repurchase rate we were looking at or mentioning it earlier, repurchase rate by cohort is going to be how long did it take for the entire cohort to purchase a second time. And so we see that after 4 or 5 months, we're still only at 50%. But what we saw is that we were at 100% repeat order rate earlier. That means that even though only half of the customers repurchased, they at least repurchased twice by the 5th month on average, because we got to the same number of orders that we had customers in the first place. So it's important to know some of your customers are going to be much better customers than others, and that's how you weigh that decision. Hopefully helpful. Please reach out, ask any question, and happy to record another one. Thanks.